I'll seek you out, flay you alive.
Guys, Pogo here, and welcome to JavaScript and jQuery. This video is going to be your cheat sheet on, how to use jQuery. I'm going to show you, starting from a very basic web page, exactly how to build it up to have jQuery in it, and what all of the words and terms mean, and some of the different functions that you'll want to know about. So I have set up a very, very simple web page. In the head, I have a style defined, a red class, which just sets the color to be red. Then in the body, I have my paragraph with an ID of sentence, so I can refer to it by an ID of sentence, a class of red, and it just says this is a sentence. So there's what it looks like. It simply says this is a sentence, and it's in red because I set the class to be the red class that I made. And then down here I have my script. Now, when you're working with JavaScript, JavaScript is obviously built into every browser, but jQuery is not a language of its own. jQuery is a library that sits on top of JavaScript and allows you to do things easily. Anything that you can do with jQuery, you can do with with JavaScript, but it might take longer or it might be harder. Because jQuery really abstracts a lot of stuff away and it makes it really easy to make nice looking code. So you'll need to have jQuery. You can download it and host it yourself. I could have jQuery downloaded here, but it's actually a better idea to use one that's hosted somewhere else, especially a popular source like Google. So this is Google hosting jQuery, the official Google thing. And just two quick things about this. The reason why it's good to use hosting with Google is that every time you see a script on a website, the browser has to download that script and use it. But when you're doing something with Google, when it downloads once from this URL, it doesn't have to download every single time. So if there are a billion different websites that use the exact same link, then it only needs to be cached one time, and then it'll work on those billion websites. So that's one reason. That's just one reason why it's great. You can, of course, host it yourself if you really wanted to. And the other thing is, you'll notice that there's / in front of this. There's no HTTP or anything like that. If you put a double slash instead of your HTTP : / or HTTPS, the browser will automatically decide which one it wants to use. So just put your / there if it's supported. It's not supported everywhere, but Google APIs does support it, so it'll use HTTPS if it's a secure connection, or HTTP if it's not a secure connection. So that's just a little trick. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, when you're working with JavaScript, everything is going to be inside of a script tag if it's embedded in an HTML document. I could make this script separate on a separate file, and then I could embed it in like I did here. This is a separate file, but I'm just going to do it inside of this file, which is perfectly acceptable, except if you have a lot of JavaScript code, you might want to split it up into different files. So inside of our script tag, everything in here is considered to be JavaScript. The first thing that you want to do when you're working with jQuery is you want to write $document.ready. And we're going to fill that in 1 second. But, okay, there's a couple of things here. The $sign means jQuery. Whenever you see a $sign, you know that you're referring to jQuery. jQuery, first of all, if you use the $sign with parentheses, that's a function. That's for selecting an element, and we'll get to that in a minute. If you see it not, like if you see $sign dot get.json or $.post or $.get, then that means it's a jQuery function that it's providing for you. So that $sign means jQuery. Whenever you see that, you know that we're using jQuery. Document, which is in purple, that's the JavaScript variable that refers to the current document. And then ready is a function that what this will do is it'll say, essentially, when the document is ready, then we're going to do something. We don't want to start doing JavaScript or jQuery work until the document is ready. So in this other document here. I didn't put that in. I think it was for simplicity's sake, but it's very important that you do that. So you want to make sure that the document is fully rendered before you start doing something. So inside of here, you're going to use an anonymous function. Whenever you see the word function, maybe there's some letters or words in there. This right there is called an anonymous function. It doesn't have a name, but ready takes some function that with no parameters, or optionally one, but and then inside of here we can say everything in here will run once the document is ready. And we're going to be working with elements in the document. We're going to be working with this line right here. So we want to make sure that it's fully rendered and loaded before we start tampering with it, obviously. That makes sense. So now let's go ahead and see what we can do. So we're in our document.ready and we can start doing things. Let's say that we want to do something with this sentence right here. What we can do is we use a jQuery selector. That's the $, and then in parentheses you write how exactly you're going to select it. So we did look at that last time right here. We said if you do something by itself, it will find the elements with tag p, the dot will be for a class, and then the # or hashtag will be for the ID. Let me fix that, it's bothering me. There we go. Okay, so let's just look at that over here. We're going to try to access this, and there are a bunch of different ways to do that. So the first way that we'll do it is if we say $p, then we will say finds elements of tag p. So that would be this. If I had more than one, it would also find it. If I did something like p first, then that would find the first element of tag p. So I write the word first in brackets, and I think you can also just fill numbers in there. Oh, perhaps not. I know that some things like last and first will work, so that's for particular ones. That's probably not the best idea. If you want to style all p things in the same way or do something to all of them, then that's fine, but usually you want to work with something individually. I could do something like #sentence, and that finds elements with tag sentence, or not tag, with ID sentence. So this, I said the ID is sentence, so that will find the elements with the ID of sentence. So it'll refer to this, and that's more specific. So if I want to work with this individual specific thing, I would use the ID. If I want to work with all of the paragraph elements, I would use P. And if I want to work with everything with this class, I could do .red, and that finds all elements with CSS class red. So the dot in front of it, which looks like the dot up here, will say anything with the CSS class of red, which includes this, would be selected. So you want to use whichever one based on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to change all paragraphs, just anything with the ID of sentence, and that would be one thing. And that really should be finds the element. Because you really, I don't think you can have more than two things with the same ID, or you really shouldn't. So, and then if you want to select by class, perhaps if I wanted to change the red class to be the color blue, then I could select everything with the red class. So just to show you, I did mention that this is the exact same thing as regular PHP. Regular JavaScript. So let's just take a look. If I want to find find the elements with the tag p, and I want to use plain JavaScript without jQuery, I would do document dot get elements, and all of these you're going to see get elements. These are essentially wrappers. The selector is like this, so I could say get elements by tag name, I believe, and then I would put in P. I believe that would have the same or a similar outcome there. When you're working with that, you would do get element by ID of sentence, and that would result in the same thing. Document.getElements by class name of red. So that is how you would do it using jQuery if you were just using JavaScript. And it's not that bad. It's not a huge difference. I just kind of like this more. I think it looks nicer with the jQuery. And there are also a ton of other cool jQuery features. So now that we know how to access something, let's look at how to modify it or how to retrieve data from it. So we have our sentence here. And what we can do is we'll use a couple of different things with it. So first, let's just get access to it. And that might give me a yellow line, yeah, because I've the jQuery selector 2 times in a row, but don't worry about that. So we're going to access the thing with the ID of sentence, which is this. And then there are a couple of things. There are tons of things that we could do with it. If I just hit that dot, you can see all these different things. But there are really only a few things that you would really want to do. For example, if we use the text function, which is given to us by jQuery, we can get the text inside of it. Similarly, there's an HTML function as well. So let's just take a look at this. We can use the alert function, which is defined by JavaScript, to make it pop up. So this is going to find something with the ID of sentence and then pop up its text. So if I do that, you'll see it says this is a sentence, and I'll hit OK to dismiss it. So it will find the text of that sentence. So again, let's just take that out, and I want to save all of this. So returns the text of the element. So in that case, this is a sentence. If we use HTML like that, then we'll hit reload, and you'll see it says this is a sentence. That is just because it doesn't count this HTML here, but a good example, if I stuck a span in there, like that should be a closing span. So if I just hit a span in there like that, you'll see now it says span, this is a sentence, end span. But if I go back to text, it'll just say this is a sentence. So it only looks inside. It's only concerned with what's inside of the paragraphs. So what you could do if you wanted is you could surround this P inside of a div, and then if you access the div, then you could see the HTML. So in this case, HTML will return the HTML of the element, which is whatever's inside of the P. It doesn't return the actual element itself, just whatever's inside of it. So if I do that for HTML, returns the HTML of the element. So that's another thing. Another thing that you would want to do, and I don't think this is going to work in this case, is val, and that would be nothing. But the reason why you would use this is, let's go ahead and make a text area. So we'll just say, input type equals text, and then we'll say ID equals input. You could call it whatever you want. Okay, so if I hit reload, you'll see now we have this field where I can do that. And I can type in and whatever. And then let's just go ahead and stick a button in. Input type equals button. ID equals button. Or we don't actually need the ID. We can just say onClick equals. And then in this case, we'll just say JavaScript colon. Alright, let's just do this. We'll just write a function called button click, and then we'll just say button click like that. Oh, I don't need the label. Okay, and then on button click, we will have it alert ID input.val. So let's see if this works. So let's reload, and now there's this button which doesn't have anything in it, but let's just say I write the word hello and I click the button. Okay, so that doesn't work. Oh, let me stick it. I'm sorry, I defined it in the wrong place. Okay, there we go. I was defining it inside of this document.ready, so it wasn't accessible, but now it is. And then let's just give this a value of pop-up. So if I reload this and I'll type in hello, for example, and I hit pop-up, it'll say hello. Because what it does is it finds the ID input, which is this input right here, and then it gets the value of it. You use val to get the value, and in that case it is hello. So if I change it, for example, to hello goodbye, and I hit pop up, it'll say hello goodbye. So it says whatever is inside of there. So if you're doing form validation, or really form validation, or if you want to see what the user types into a specific place, you can use val to get the value, and that's good for inputs. So let's just go ahead and keep that as well. So the val returns the value of the element, and I'll just say good for forms, because you can see that we use that up there for that form. When the button is clicked, the on click is just saying when I click it, it'll call the PHP function button click, which will alert the value. Now, let's see, one last thing that would be good before we look at something else is you can modify properties of the value. You can modify properties of these things. So let's say that we have this button, and let's just give it an ID of button, and I could modify this to make it disabled. So let's just say that when the button is clicked, I could say ID button dot prop. The property is called disabled, and I'm going to set it to be true. Okay, let's reload. So now I'm going to type something in, I'm going to click it, and it'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, and now the button's disabled. It's grayed out, and I can't click on it. It doesn't do anything. So you can use this prop function. Well, first of all, you can use it with only one argument, and it'll give you the value of it. So let's just try that. So let's just alert the property disabled. Reload. And it says nothing because it's not disabled. And oh, so there you go. It says false because it's not disabled. So it said nothing first of all. So here, if I write hi, it'll say hi, and then the value of disabled is false. So you can check to see whether a button is enabled or not. So you would want to use prop to returns the value of the property for the element. And now all of these, like we just saw with the property, these can all be, you use these as modifiers as well. So what I could do is I could modify the sentence. So I could set the text to be, this is not a sentence. And I use the exact same text function, but I'm passing it an argument, and if I reload, you'll see it says this is not a sentence. If it took a long time to load, you would see it says this is a sentence until it changes, but it's so snappy that you can't even tell. You can clearly see that it still says this is a sentence here, but I'm changing it. So this will say sets the text of the element to the supplied value. Of course, this works with everything else, so we can do it with HTML, and then let's say we want to do a span, actually we will put these in single quotes, span style equals font, what is it? I think, I'm not 100% sure how to do that. Font weight, bold, there we go. So we'll set the font weight to be bold, and then we'll say this is still not a sentence, and the span. And now if we reload, you'll see it says it's in red, and it says this is still not a sentence. Because first it was this is a sentence, then it was changed, here the text was changed, then the HTML was changed, so it still has that red class, but then it becomes the font weight being bold. So if I were to stick this into the text like that, then you'll see that it doesn't, oh, I'm sorry, it's messed up. I'm sorry, let's fix that. So if I stick that into where it says text, you'll see it does that because it's text. So it's going to just treat HTML things like they're text, and we don't want that. But if I put it like that, if I put it in the HTML, then it will be treated like HTML, and you can see that it is in fact bolded. So this will set the HTML of the element to the supplied value. Let's just take a look at, we could do input.val, and we could set it to be hello. and then the value will automatically be hello. You could do that with a property up there if you wanted to, but you could set the value to be hello. You could also do that with buttons. You could say the button.val, and right now it says pop up, but you could say click me. And if I reload, that's how you change the text of a button. So then it would say click me. Let's just go back to what we had before. So this will sets the value of the element to the supplied value element. And finally, the property, I showed that a minute ago. You can do disabled, and then you can give it a value. So true sets the value of the element to the supplied value, and it's not sets the property value of the element to the supplied value. We'll just say that. And if I reload, you'll see that it's now disabled because I went ahead and set it to be disabled. I could, of course, just write the word disabled after this, and it would do the exact same thing. But if you want to modify it with jQuery or JavaScript, then that's how you would do it. So that is a quick overview of jQuery. There are a lot of other things that you need to know, but that's really good for just quickly. So if you want to do simple basic things, you know how to modify, get and set text, HTML content, values, and properties, which are all of these. These are all properties or attributes. So those are all very important things to know. So that's all for this video. I hope you guys learned a little bit, and if you ever get confused with jQuery, you can check back to this video for a quick rundown of all of the basic, most important functions. So as always, subscribe if you want to see more, comment with what you want to learn. If you like this video, click the like button, and I'll see you guys soon with some more coding. Bye for now.